5:21 local time. Along the forward edge of the flight deck, steel shutters snap open one after another. No warning tones, not yet. Just machinery moving at an hour when it usually stays still. On the bridge, nobody looks up. They do not need to. New surface contacts, bearing 218. The report lands flat, professional, controlled. No emotion in the voice, no rush either. And somehow, that is what makes everyone listen. Inside the operations center, 3 faint returns begin to sharpen on the screen. At first, they seem ordinary. Low-profile surface contacts moving across calm water. No heavy wake, nothing dramatic. Then the numbers shift. Their speed climbs, then climbs again. Confirm 3 contacts, the coordinator says. 3 confirmed, comes the answer almost instantly. The carrier holds course, 25 knots, straight ahead. No change, no hesitation. Another update follows, tighter this time. Contacts accelerating together. For half a second, hands stop moving. Up on the flight deck, a yellow shirt pauses mid-step beside a parked fighter. Below, in the operations center, the plotting table refreshes as 3 vectors stretch forward across the display. 3 surface contacts, not scattered, not drifting, moving as one. The radar operator tightens the scale. What looked like open ocean now becomes measured distance. The closest point of approach begins shrinking quietly, without drama. Range, 36 nautical miles and closing. Still far. Far enough for this to feel routine. If it were routine. But it is not. The officer of the deck leans forward, eyes fixed on the repeater. He says nothing yet. He is waiting for confirmation he already expects. Any AIS? Negative, no transponder. Flags? None visible. The carrier does not slow. It does not turn. Ahead, the ocean remains empty and blue, indifferent to the geometry tightening beneath the surface of the display. Another voice cuts in from the operations center. Contacts adjusting formation! On the screen, 1 contact holds the center. The other 2 ease outward, a few degrees left and right. Not wide enough to separate, wide enough to matter. A familiar pattern begins to form. Nobody gives it a name. Update CPA. Recomputing. CPA now under 8 nautical miles if current vectors hold. 8 miles at that closing speed is not a lot of time. The bridge remains quiet. No raised voices. No sudden orders. Only controlled breathing, the low hum of electronics, and systems doing exactly what they were built to do. The carrier's escorts are already responding, but almost invisibly. A destroyer off the starboard quarter eases inward by less than a cable length. Another adjusts speed by half a knot. Tiny movements, meaningless to anyone watching from the outside, obvious to anyone watching the plot. Inside the operations center, a watchstander marks the track numbers in red. Contacts maintaining high speed, 28 knots. Fast for naval vessels, faster than necessary. A radio operator sends the first hail. Standard wording, clear, calm. Unidentified surface vessels. This is a United States Navy vessel operating in international waters. State your intentions. Static. No reply. No acknowledgement. No correction. The contacts keep coming. Flight operations pause without a spoken order. Launch crews step back from the catapults. A deck chief raises one hand, signaling hold, then keeps it there. No aircraft move. Another update. CPA revised, 6.5 nautical miles. The numbers keep tightening. The sea does not. The officer of the deck finally speaks. Log everything. Already done. Every bearing change, every increase in speed, every second. In the operations center, long-range cameras lock onto the tracks. Grainy silhouettes begin to take shape against the horizon. Low, angular forms, cutting clean wakes across the water. Naval vessels. Still no flag. Still no voice. The carrier continues forward, massive and steady. A floating city of steel, refusing to show pressure by reacting to it. Then, from the silence, one watchstander speaks. "They're not shadowing us." He does not need to explain why. Shadowing means matching course, matching speed, holding distance. This is something else. 3 contacts, high speed, coordinated movement. Clear intent, but no announcement. At 5:27, the range drops below 5 nautical miles. No warning tones. No visible shift into a more serious posture. Nothing dramatic, just data moving faster. Just time getting smaller. On the bridge, the captain stands with his arms loosely crossed. He has not spoken yet. He does not need to. The carrier never changes course. Somewhere ahead, 3 naval vessels continue closing in, steady and deliberate, while the line between presence and pressure begins to fade. 5:30 local time. The silhouettes sharpen first. Then come the details. Angular bows, low freeboard, twin masts, no fishing equipment, no civilian clutter. Inside the operations center, the identification officer does not rush. He never does. He waits until the match is exact. Contact 1 matches Russian Navy surface vessel profile. No reaction on the bridge, only a nod. Confirming contacts 2 and 3, the voice continues, calm and measured. Same class family, same signatures. The plotting table updates. 3 Russian naval vessels. No uncertainty now, no guessing. The question is no longer who, it is why. The range drops again, 5 nautical miles. The carrier still holds 25 knots. Straight line, no deviation. She does not acknowledge pressure by reacting to it. A second hail goes out. This time, it is addressed directly. Russian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy aircraft carrier operating in international waters. You are closing at high speed. State your intentions. The transmission hangs in the air for a moment. Nothing comes back. Only static. On the surface display, the geometry tightens again. The center Russian vessel holds course, its bow pointed just ahead of the carrier's projected path. The 2 flanking vessels ease wider, their wakes forming shallow angles that begin to shape the open water around them. This is not random. CPA now 4 nautical miles, the operations center reports. Time to CPA 8 minutes. 8 minutes is a lifetime in procedure, an eternity in headlines, and almost nothing when thousands of tons of steel are moving across the same patch of ocean. One escort shifts again, almost too subtly to notice. Another slides into position, turning open water into controlled water. No one announces it. Everyone sees it. Below deck, the electronic monitoring suite begins listening more closely. Signals are recorded, cataloged, and time-stamped. Every radar sweep from the Russian vessels is quietly saved. The carrier remains silent. A third hail is prepared, then held. No one wants to speak just to fill the air. Words do not always calm a moment like this. Position does. Then the center Russian vessel increases speed. Contact 1 now 30 knots. That gets attention. 30 knots puts it on a direct crossing timeline. Not a pass, not a shadow. A deliberate test. The bridge remains calm. The captain finally uncrosses his arms and steps closer to the chart table. How steady is their course? Very steady, comes the answer. No weave, no correction. That matters. A vessel that intends to give space usually leaves small signs. A vessel that intends to test resolve does not. On the flight deck, the hold stretches longer than anyone wants. The aircraft sit ready, silent and still. Crew members remain in position without moving, their eyes shifting between the sea and the island. No one talks. Another update comes in. CPA revised, 3.2 nautical miles. 3 miles is inside comfort, inside courtesy, inside the space where coincidence starts to lose its meaning. The Russian vessels are close enough now for hull numbers to be read through optics. Close enough for bridge crews on both sides to see each other as people, not symbols. Still, there is no radio response. A watchstander inside the operations center says it aloud, mostly for the record. Russian vessels remain silent. Silence can mean control, or it can mean commitment. The center vessel keeps its line. The two flanking vessels adjust just enough to narrow the space ahead of the carrier's bow. They are not blocking the path, they are implying one. The range drops below 3 nautical miles. The officer of the deck calls it out calmly. Mark this point. Marked. This is the distance where international rules stop feeling abstract and start being documented second by second. Off the port side, a destroyer brings its long-range cameras fully online. A helicopter crew moves toward their aircraft without rushing. The rotors do not turn yet. Presence comes before noise. Then the captain speaks at last, his voice low and steady. Maintain course. No qualifiers, no conditions. The carrier does not blink. Ahead, the bow wave of the Russian lead vessel grows brighter as it holds speed. The flanking vessels remain disciplined, neither surging forward nor falling back. The formation looks rehearsed, not improvised. 3 naval vessels, 1 carrier. Steel and intention sharing a shrinking stretch of water. Inside the operations center, someone says what everyone is already thinking. They are not trying to communicate. No one disagrees. CPA now 2 nautical miles. 2 miles is close enough to feel. Close enough that one wrong turn from either side could become global news within seconds. The carrier continues forward, massive and steady, her wake unbroken. And for the first time since the contacts appeared, one thing becomes clear to everyone watching the plot. This is no longer about distance. It is about who changes first. 5:40 local time. The sea ahead looks unchanged. Flat, blue, empty. But the screens tell a different story. Contact 1 increasing speed again. The words are clipped now. Tighter than before. 32 knots. That gets everyone's attention. The Russian lead vessel surges forward. Its bow wave thickens, white water climbing along the hull. It is no longer pacing, no longer hinting. It is pressing forward. On the tactical display, the center track reaches toward the carrier's projected path, the line becoming impossible to ignore. The flanking vessels hold their angles, disciplined and patient. Their role is no longer speed, it is pressure. CPA revised, the operations center reports. 1.8 nautical miles. The number hangs in the air. At this distance, there is no room for drift, no room for confusion. Every rudder movement matters. Every engine command matters. The officer of the deck does not raise his voice. Confirm intent. In the operations center, the answer comes after a short pause. Contact 1 is on an intercept course, no deviation. That is the line. Inside the ship, the mood changes. Not visibly, not dramatically, but everyone feels it. Consoles glow, voices lower, movements become smaller and more precise. The carrier's enormous mass continues forward, calm and unhurried, as if daring the geometry to solve itself before steel ever has to. Another hail is transmitted, shorter this time. Russian naval vessel on bearing 040. You are approaching at an unsafe distance. Alter course immediately. The message goes out clean. No reply. The Russian vessel does not slow. Range 1.4 nautical miles. On the flight deck, the order finally comes, spoken quietly. Prepare the helicopter. The crew moves with control. Rotor covers come off. Tie-downs are checked. No one runs. No one needs to. The helicopter is not being sent as a threat. It is being prepared as a message. Inside the operations center, the electronic picture shifts. Emissions spike. The electronic warfare officer studies the display. They are scanning us. Low-power surface search, not targeting radar, not yet, but active. Everything is being recorded. Every signal, every sweep, every second, every pulse, every choice. The Russian lead vessel holds 32 knots. The two flanking vessels tighten their angles just enough to narrow the water ahead of the carrier's bow. They are shaping the space now, not occupying it. And this is where small mistakes can become very large moments. CPA now 1 nautical mile. The operations center calls out. 1 mile. At 25 knots, that distance disappears quickly. On the bridge, the captain steps forward again. He does not shout. He does not gesture. Helm steady. The carrier does not give way. On the flight deck, the helicopter's rotors begin to turn. Slowly at first, then faster, the sound rising just enough to be noticed. Not a roar, a presence. The Russian lead vessel is close enough now that individual deck features are visible through optics. Crew silhouettes move along the rails. No visible stations are being activated, but everyone is watching. Binoculars raised, cameras rolling. The helicopter lifts cleanly from the deck, climbing just high enough to clear the island before leveling off. It does not rush forward. It slides into position with purpose, placing itself where everyone who needs to see it can see it. This is still restraint. The helicopter holds altitude. Its sensors come alive. The sea below appears in infrared and daylight imagery, streaming back to the operations center in real time. Visual confirmation. The helicopter crew reports. Russian naval vessel, bow on, speed unchanged. The helicopter drifts sideways, never crossing directly over the Russian vessel, never crowding it, never forcing the moment. Just close enough to remove any doubt. The range drops below half a nautical mile. Then the Russian vessel finally hesitates. Not a turn, not yet, just a flicker in the wake, a slight shortening of the white water of the bow. The engines are still pushing, but something has changed. Contact 1, speed fluctuating. The operations center notes. Down 1 knot, holding. Down again. That matters. For the first time since contact, the formation is no longer perfect. The flanking vessels maintain position, but their angles stop tightening. They hold where they are, waiting for the lead vessel to decide. The helicopter remains on station, cameras locked, recording everything. No lights, no pressure, just eyes. Then the Russian lead vessel eases left. Barely. Only a few degrees. Not enough to call it a full turn. Enough to break the crossing geometry. On the bridge, no one reacts outwardly. Inside the operations center, the plotting table redraws itself. CPA increasing, someone says quietly. The line has been touched, not crossed. The carrier continues forward, unchanged. Her course remains steady. Her speed stays the same. She does not chase. She does not adjust. She simply remains exactly where she intended to be. Behind her, the Russian formation begins to loosen. The rigid angles soften into something less deliberate, less absolute. No dramatic escalation, no shouted warnings. But the decision has been made. 5:48 local time. The carrier never changes course. That is the first thing everyone notices when the geometry breaks. No surge, no hesitation, no correction at the helm. 25 knots, straight line. The same heading she held before the first radar contact ever appeared. The Russian lead vessel's slight turn continues. Almost imperceptible, but enough. Its bow is no longer aimed at the carrier's projected track. The white water at the stem thins as speed eases by another knot. Contact 1 now 30 knots, then 29. It is subtle, but it is real. Behind it, the two flanking Russian vessels pause their outward drift. They do not tighten, they do not advance. They hold where they are, suspended between intent and withdrawal. Inside the operations center, the plot refreshes. CPA increasing, the watch standard reports. Now 1.2 nautical miles and widening. No one cheers. No one lets out a loud breath. This is not relief. This is confirmation. The helicopter maintains position off the lead vessel's beam, never crossing the bow, never climbing aggressively. Its presence remains steady, disciplined, and unmistakable. The sensor feed shows the Russian bridge clearly now. Windows, antennae, crew movement. Everything is being documented. A brief radio transmission crackles from the helicopter. Calm, professional, non-confrontational. Russian naval vessel. This is United States Navy aircraft. You are operating at an unsafe distance. Your actions are being documented. The message is repeated in Russian. Still no reply. But the response is visible. The lead Russian vessel reduces speed again. 28 knots. Then 27. The wake shortens once more. The crossing line dissolves into a passing track, one that will miss cleanly instead of cutting across. The flanking vessels follow, not immediately, but deliberately. Their angles relax, their bows swing outward just enough to reopen the water ahead of the carrier. The shape dissolves. The carrier does nothing. She does not take advantage of the opening, she simply continues forward. She does not change speeds to prove a point. She simply continues forward, massive and indifferent, moving through the space she had always intended to occupy. One of the escorts subtly repositions, widening the carrier's protective arc without drawing attention. Another holds station, creating depth instead of pressure. This is not escalation. This is control. The helicopter slides laterally, adjusting its angle to keep the Russian lead vessel centered in its optics as the distance increases. No lights, no gestures, only quiet observation. Inside the operations center, emissions from the Russian vessels begin to drop. Radar sweeps become less frequent, less certain. "They're backing off," someone says softly. No one answers. The log already says it. On the carrier's flight deck, movement begins again. Yellow shirts lower their hands. A jet crew resumes work, slowly at first, then normally. Operations pick up exactly where they left off, as if nothing unusual had interrupted them. Because by the standards of this ship, nothing unusual has. The range opens beyond 2 nautical miles. The Russian formation is no longer rigid. The vessels spread naturally now, no longer moving like one coordinated shape. One drifts slightly astern, another turns outward, its bow pointing away from the carrier's path entirely. The helicopter remains airborne for a few more minutes, long enough to confirm the shift is real, long enough to make sure there is no sudden